pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record reflect that all members are present except for Director Chad. Any agenda deletions or changes?
8.3, approve Todd Rippentrug as the signator for Nell Sheen and junior high activity accounts. 9.2 is an addition. 9.2 already exists, but in addition, Alex Schlottik as junior high volleyball. 9.7, approve Jason Ness as network administrator. 10.4, approve network administrator contract. And 10.5, approve resolution 625 calling the school district general election.
Okay, thank you. 5.0, visitor input. No one has signed up, from what I understand, to speak tonight, so we'll move on. 6.0, approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Sean Lobb,
Support.
by Putzel. Second. Any additions? Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 7.0, approve the minutes of the regular meeting of Monday, August 8th, 2016.
Also move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on Monday, August 8th,
Okay.
2016.
Motion by Gentilini,
Support.
support by Sean Lobb. Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8.0, business office affairs. 8.1, approve the treasurer's report for the second check writing in August. Leah?
For the second check writing of August, we only have disbursements of $124,309.57. I make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Motion by Sean Lobb,
Support.
support by Peterson. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8.2, authorize the business manager to provide oversight for non-audit services.
It's getting to be that time of year again. The auditor sent us their letter for, and every year the board authorizes our business manager to provide oversight to that process. So.
Okay. Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Motion by Sean Lobb,
Support.
support by Peterson. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8.3, which is approve Todd Rippentrug as signator for Neil Sheen and junior high activity accounts. Did I say it okay this time? A little better? Okay. I'll get used to it. Okay. Need a motion and a second.
No move.
Motion Putzel,
Support.
support by Sean Lobb. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 9.0, personnel.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I see a representative from Chickagami stopped in. We typically ask if they have anything to say. She didn't finish her input. Do we want to see if she wanted to address so she could leave?
Yeah, we can do that. We can put her on there.
Well, we've been just by default the last meetings.
Yeah, the last meeting of the month, we're supposed to have them on there. But our
Just wonder if she had
we
anything to
forgot
say,
it.
if she wanted to just say it and
Have you
leave.
got anything to add?
I'm sorry I'm late.
That's okay.
And yeah, we are kind
we
of
didn't put
always,
you-
I
we-
didn't
we
call
forgot to
ahead of
put
time
you-
because we're kind of always supposed to come the last meeting of the month. So I can call in the future just to
Yeah.
keep myself on track better too, sorry. I'm just here to give you an update. We continue to look for facilities, and we have a couple of other prospects that we're studying. We are starting a fundraising campaign, we're talking about it as we're going to have a family fun night to help raise money for establishing a new home It's kind of the way we're talking about it with the community. We have a date, but it's not completely confirmed. It's at the end of September. So I don't want to give the date and then have it get recorded as not, and we end up changing it because we haven't had confirmation on a couple things we need yet. But that's the main thing we're doing. We are completely intending to get out of the building by June 30th or sooner, and we're doing what we can to try and make it happen. It's not easy, I will say that. We're having
We know.
our work cut out for us, and there are board members who are working easily, 20, 30 hours a week as board members. We're really working hard right now.
Okay.
So that's the scoop.
Good luck.
We take it seriously, so
Okay.
thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
hearing from me. Appreciate it. Bye.
Moving on, 9.1, approve the 2016-17 extracurricular assignments.
There's just one on there. This time, Teresa Allen for junior high knowledge bowl. Teresa's the new science teacher here.
Okay, we need a motion and a second.
So moved?
Motion by Sean Lobb. Support by Young. I'll do it. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 9.2, approve the 2016-17 fall coaching assignments with the addition of Alex Schlottick for junior high volleyball. And there is two other people, Anna Mariucci and Carrie Klovstad.
We waited until we had a better handle on the numbers before we hired additional ones. The addition of the tennis brings that to a total of 2. There's a head and an assistant. Same with swimming. Volleyball, where we had 5 last year, this actually brings it to 4. So that is a reduction of 1 from last year. But the numbers support all 3 of these. We have good participation this fall so far.
Okay.
I'll move. That we
I'll
accept
second.
it.
Motion by Peterson, seconded by Forty. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 9.3, approve the .50 FTE secondary teaching appointment of George Harridan.
This marks the 17th time that George has come out of retirement.
And we greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Is this just for the first semester, though?
Yeah, just one semester.
As right now, it's the first
It's
semester.
one semester, yeah.
So moved?
Support.
Motion by Sean Lobb, support by Jen Laney. Any other questions?
Or George?
Thank you.
Thank you, George. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 9.4, recall married persons for a paraprofessional position.
The next 3 of these are based on, we had laid off a number of paraprofessionals last spring, and they're based on student IP needs. And so far, we have to recall 3 of them
Okay.
at this point.
Okay, we need a motion in a second.
I'll move.
Motion by Peterson,
Support.
support by Gentilini. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 9.5, recall Greta Aldrich for paraprofessional position. Need a motion in a second.
So moved?
Motion by Sean Lobb,
Support.
support by Peterson. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 9.6, recall Christy Intihar for paraprofessional position.
I'll move.
Motion Peterson,
Support.
support by Gentilini. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 9.7, approve Jason Ness as a network administrator.
This is, will be a replacement for our current contracted network administrator. With approval tonight, I will write them a letter and give them 30 days notice that we're changing network administrators.
Okay, need a motion and a second.
I'll move.
Motion by Peterson,
Support.
support by Sean Lobb. Any questions, additions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 10.0, new business. 10.1, approve the second reading of the following policy revisions. 709, student transportation safety policy. 802 is the disposition of obsolete equipment and material. And 806 is the crisis management policy. Need a motion and a second for final reading.
Motion, I'll make the motion.
Motion by Schonlaub,
I'll support.
support by Peterson. Thank you. See, it's not easy, is it?
Too late in the day.
Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 10.2, facility study presentation by ARI.
I've invited ARI to come up and speak to the facilities. We also have Bill Fahey and his partner from Northland Securities to answer any questions regarding financing. I've also invited our Buildings and Grounds
Thank you.
Director, Randy Knowles, to answer any questions that you might have
Thank you.
about the transportation piece.
We have to move.
No popcorn, but there's candy.
Yeah.
I'm,
Get close to our super.
yeah,
Try. Oh, don't so they can see you.
there's no popcorn, but there is caramels.
Okay, so we are back. As we had promised originally, kind of in our 4-month timeline, that today is kind of the day that we would look at your possibilities for the facility, the costs associated with each one of them, and then a potential savings to the district that would be associated with each one of them. So we're going to review the options that we had talked about last time we were here a month ago, and we also explored the fourth option that we were asked to take a look at, which would be a new campus or a new building on the existing Eveleth campus. So that's number 4. As we walk through our options, we'll get to where that falls in. So in this last month, we've been working directly with the district as well as your financial consultants to pull some numbers together to give you a pretty good estimate on where we would believe some cost savings would be as we move forward with these potential projects. So just as a review, we'll start out. Option 1 was
You gotta
the
shut the
dual
window.
campus.
Excuse me. Bill, would you turn those lights off so everybody can see a little better? There we go.
There
Thank
we
you.
go. Perfect. That looks great. So option 1 was the dual campus concept. That concept was the possible 712 high school on this existing campus. Again, to kind of just reiterate where we were last time, the blue areas would be the building that we would save. So the existing Franklin would be saved, remodeled. And the existing gym music area would be saved, remodeled. And then the yellow area would introduce the new auditorium, common space, and industrial tech. So with this option 1, with the high school on this campus, and then Gilbert would receive the new pre-K. So we would have a pre-K through 6 in Gilbert. Eveleth would house the 7 through 12. Square foot per student, we're about 283. So kind of keep that in mind as we move forward. It's a little bit of a higher number because we are still dealing with 2 campuses. Our estimated cost for the building would be $47 million. When we did our cost savings, we believe that that could be a cost saving to the district of $751,250 per year to go to that dual campus. Okay. We can go through these and come back. So option 2 was a remodel and a renovation, which would be new construction on the Eveleth campus. So this would house the elementary, pre-K through 6, as well as 7 through 12 on the Eveleth campus. So you can see again that this graphic, the blue area would be existing buildings that would be remodeled. So the existing Franklin building would stay, as well as the existing gym music core. The yellow area, again, would be new construction, so we'd have a new auditorium. The commons area would be a new piece to tie the high school and the elementary together. We would look at a new pool on this campus and industrial tech as well. And then you can see that new pre-K through 6 wing that runs off the area where the high school
Question.
sits now.
We'd also have a new bus garage on that look.
The bus garage at this point, we have not included in
Okay.
any of the schemes, so that would be something that we would talk about, you know, again, depending on if we're a dual campus or single campus, we've got a bus garage, so we've pulled the bus garage square footage out of
Okay, I
this
was
at
just
this
wondering,
point in
because I see
time.
that bus.
Yeah, so right now, we're just showing the existing bus garage staying the same.
Is that a drop-off? I think that's Keith's
That's a drop,
question.
is that a drop-off area there?
Yes, yep, where the
Oh,
bus
okay,
is, yep,
okay.
that would be the, yep.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Yep, so that would be the bus drop-off, and then the car area would be the pickup and drop-off for parents. So you can see in each one of these schemes, we're separating those two just for the safety factor, so the buses and the public do not cross each other. So option 2, the remodel and renovation, per the graphic that we had just presented, would be new construction at the Evelyn campus. So we're looking at 270 square feet per student. So you can also already see that there's a little bit of a savings per square foot per student. That's come down for a little bit from option 1. The cost that we had talked about for this option would be $53 million. And our savings jumps up to 1.277. So there is definitely a savings as we went through kind of our modeling, going from a 2-campus to a 1-campus school. You can see the numbers there, kind of tell the story themselves.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
As we go, are we taking into any savings that's transportation, or are we just talking about operating expenses?
Nope,
at this
so when
stage?
we did, here I have my little list because I thought this might be asked. So I'll kind of give you the areas that we looked at. So we looked at maintenance, obviously number 1. Utilities was included in that as well. And then the third line item that we talked about was what we're calling efficiencies. So this would be, you know, like kitchen, you've got 1 kitchen instead of 2. Transportation, you know, you're not going to 2 cities, so there's some transportation costs. Cafeteria, this also includes mileage between campuses, so.
Is there staffing reduction, obviously,
Yep,
because
yep,
of that?
of course,
Okay.
yep. So there would be some staffing that would be included in this as well.
Okay.
So yeah, so those were kind of our 3 criterias as we look through: maintenance, utility, and then efficiencies from 1 campus to 2. So again, so your square foot per student is at 270 square feet, so you automatically get a cost savings in that because you're reducing your square footage overall, and then those 3 criteria get us to our 1.277. So option 3, I don't have a graphic for, but that's what we had talked about, would be a brand new pre-K-12 on a new site. Site has not been selected, so you can see that I do have an asterisk beneath that says the numbers that we're showing does not include land acquisition. So if you have to buy land, that number would increase. And I do not have utilities or athletic fields that would be included in this number as well, because at this point in time, if you're in the city limits, utilities are a lot less expensive. If we're out in the country, you have to bring in a water tower, you know, so right now, to keep it kind of apples to apples, I did pull out those 3 pieces. So yep, go ahead.
When we talk about our current square footage, are our green spaces incorporated in that too, though? Or no? It's just building, right?
It's just building,
Okay.
so,
Just
yeah.
just so I know.
Correct,
that-
so we're trying to kind of keep it apples to apples, because if you start pulling
And
those
I
in.
assume that, but I just.
Yep, so this is just
Okay.
building, this is just facility
So-
construction.
So sports facilities would be additional regardless?
Yes, correct.
So, okay, thank
Yep.
you.
So, so the new pre-K-12 school on a new site, we're down to 248 square feet per student. So again, it's a little bit more efficient, you know, as we move through. We've gotten a little bit more efficient, and that was based off of that space program. That first meeting that we showed up, we talked about your space program for a new school. That's where the 248 came from. So we've kind of maintained that as we've gone through. The cost, again, $65 million for a new school. You know, what that does not include those pieces that we talked about below. And we think that that savings is up closer to 1.3 for an option with a new school.
How many students are you basing this on?
This is 1,000 students.
1,000?
Yep.
Okay.
Just to kind of keep it on the even
Yeah,
number.
okay. Thank you.
Yep. And then option 4, this is the option that we were asked to take a peek at last time we were here. So option 4 would be a new pre-K-12 school at the Evelyn site, so on this campus. There was some concepts and efficiencies of maybe being able to do the remodel, having kids going to school here, building the new school. So we can see that we've got it tucked to the front of the campus. That would be a new pre-K-12 school. And then we also took a shot at how the field work could potentially play in there as well, so that you could kind of see that this campus would be able to house your athletic requirements as well as the school facility. So this option is actually very similar to the new pre-K-12 on a new site. Again, we use the same numbers, 248 square feet per student. The cost would be 65 millions. Now this one, I just did not include the athletic fields, again, just to keep it apples to apples, but your city utilities are already here, so there's some cost savings of that difference between here and a potential new site. So that savings still came in at about that $1.3 million mark. Initial thoughts?
I think we'll need to know how it impacts taxes before we have much of an
Okay.
opinion.
Yeah.
We could
And
dream
this,
in circles
again,
about
you know,
that.
we're not here to make a decision tonight. This is just another piece, you know, as we've been moving through, come in once a month, just to kind of give you the information that we've been pulling together. But I think the short story is you know, the less square footage that you have, obviously, you know, your less your maintenance costs are, so you're going to have more savings. And I think it was important for us as well to review the dual campus versus the one, because there was definitely a significant savings going from 2 campuses to 1. So I think that was important to note. Once we got to 1 campus, whether it's here or on a new site, you know, they start washing out and become a little bit closer together. So, well, we'll let Bill to go through the financials, and then we can come back, and if you have questions, we can go backwards. How does that sound?
One question?
Yeah, you bet.
Will we get before we get to Bill, can we get a itemized listing of the savings on each of these options? I know you went through what the categories are,
Yep.
but can we see what the dollar,
Yeah, I can individualize
those.
each category. Yeah, so we've got inefficiencies, the utility, and the maintenance costs. We can split those 3 apart.
okay, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, and go through and see how they came up at. Absolutely. Yep. Wanna come up?
Okay, Bill, you're on.
I'm on, Michael is going to do the formal presentation of the numbers, and you're getting the packages now. I just want to make sure everybody understands, these numbers represent the increase in taxes on properties within the district for the 3 options, or the 4 options, 2 being the same. The results indicate, number 1, the very same level of or type of reductions and credits that every other school district in the state of Minnesota would receive. These do not represent anything that we have normally received from the taconite funds, either 80/20 or a package somewhat like Mountain Iron Buell would get, which would be preferred. However, these 3 indicate very clearly that the district would qualify for a capital loan maximum effort program, which would be less than any one of the 3 that you'll see, and Mike will talk about that. The difference is the maximum effort debt service levy would be for 50 years. And it's about 30%. These have been calculated all on 30 years. That's what we've been trying to do in the past. But I think what this drives us all to do is to make arrangements to talk to the delegation about an 80/20 program, at the very least. 80% taconite money, 20% on the tax burden.
And just to add on to that, that's referring to the collaboration fund that the IRRB established.
The 80/20 would require a separate piece of legislation. We've done that for every single piece that qualified for this district from the 1980s. From before cooperation and every piece thereafter, except one that wasn't a building program. So I want to make sure that everybody understands, in my opinion, and I'm going to have one, these costs are exorbitant. You would not want to show these to anybody or present them in a election setting. They're far above what anybody else in the state would pay or agree to pay. And I wouldn't think you would want to do the same. Again, this is going to take us back to a formal discussion with the delegation. And that's really where it is. But this may give you some help in sorting between the options. If it does not, I'd be perfectly willing to sit down at the table with you and walk through it. But I'm going to have my aide walk through it. He's more than an aide, believe me. He understands this now very, very well. He understands our options. So, Michael, have the floor.
Thank you, Bill. Again, my name is Michael Hart. I have been here with you a couple months back now, and kind of been working with Bill on this. It's been interesting to learn some of the history here and take a look at what the financial impacts would be of some of the options that you've been presented here tonight. So what I put in front of you here is there's 3 different packets that represent. There's 4 options, but the options 3 and 4 were the same capitalized number of 65 million, so I combined those into one. So I've got in here tax impact information on where you would be at on equalization, where the state would help you without getting any kind of special help outside of what's already entitled to you through the code as it sets today. So that's what we're showing you here, and it's the same as when I was back here a few months back. We had looked at that $25 million scenario. The same idea is what's going on here. So if you take the option 1, the dual campus, this assumes that you need to capitalize $47 million. And you flip there into the second page, it shows you the tax impact on a variety of different property types and values. So just working from the top of the page down, this assumes that you would need to put an additional annual levy of $2,240,000 on the taxpayers. Now that is after you've included the equalization that you would get from the state. We talked about that last time. You have to get to a payment of about 1.3, I think it's 1.368 million or something like that before you start to see any equalization from the state. And once you get beyond that, it's about a 60-40 split, where the state will put in 40% and you as taxpayers put in the balance of the 60%. And that'll change a little bit on an annual one year to the next, but that's where it sits today. So your net tax capacity is about 5.2 million. That puts an additional tax rate of 42.94%. Looking down there, I have 3 different property types, but it just, for example, if you take a $100,000 market value home, it's $308 on an annual basis increase on the taxes. So you can follow that for the different values that are shown on there, the residential, the apartments, the commercial, industrial. So that the next page here kind of shows you how we got there. As far as that $2,240,000 levy, we had looked at a similar page the last time. The left piece of this page is your payments, and now we've gone out, when we've structured this, you can go out 30 years with a general obligation bond under state statute. So we're going out the maximum that you can, which gives you the lowest payment that you can. When districts do building programs like this, it's common to be somewhere between 20 and 30 years. Sometimes you'll see 20 years. When you're doing a major project such as this, we most typically see it in the 25 to 30 year range. So we've gone the maximum that you can, and I didn't include all the years on here just because the numbers started to get too small, but you can see the principal, the interest, the two combined together. And then in Minnesota, we do 105% levy when you actually make the levy. So that gets you to about $2,850,000. The middle box there is our calculations for the equalization. on this, that equalization column shows you the state would pitch in about 615,000 on an annual basis. And you net that out and you get your net levy over there on the right of the 2,240,000. So that's what I used on the front page. Does that make sense, how that all flows from left to right on the page? Now the final page in here is, it kind of gets more detailed as you go further back. This shows you what we've assumed for how the full payment schedule looks like, your interest rates. One of the advantages you have about talking about this at the current time is that the interest rates this summer are as low as they've been in 50 years. We've hit, we've been in a low rate environment really for several years now, since the financial crisis, but we've hit points this summer that we have never hit before. One of the major bond indices that we look at is the 10-year U.S. Treasury, and that shortly after the Brexit vote that happened at the end of June, we hit the lowest point on that index in the history of the United States. So, we're talking about kind of historically low rates. And as you look at this, the one thing I would point out to you is that we get very consumed with the 47 million versus 65 million in the savings. But if you look at the interest number on here, you're talking about $31 million in a very low interest rate environment. And so it's a major component to what you're looking at. And from that standpoint, it makes an attractive time to be having this discussion. Because over time, it can often be, as much as half of really the cost of what the taxpayers end up paying back. So that's what I would kind of point out there. So there's two more packets that look very similar to this first one. So the first one is for the $47 million capitalization. The second is for your option 2, which was the new construction on the remodel and new construction on the Evelyn campus. That was $53 million. And you can see that takes the tax rate up to about 46.96%. It's just marginally a little bit higher. There's not a huge difference between those two, but there is some. And then the same 2 pages there behind. Your levy ends up being, instead of the 2,240,000, 2,450,000. And then your options 3 and 4, and gives you the same information when you capitalize $65 million. So if you look at those tax rates, you're looking at a rate of 42, 43%, about 47, and about 55%. So those, depending upon where you fall on that schedule, in which property value you are, how it fits, that's the underlying tax rate that you'd see. Now, Bill kind of introduced that maximum effort capital loan program. And that's there's a single sheet at the back of what I had paper clipped together. And this shows you the tax impact on the capital loan program. Now, the law has been around for some time and it's changed over time. But what the law allows districts to do is that when you get to a certain level of borrowing, they allow you to make what they call a maximum effort levy. And the state is the one who actually borrows the money, and you pay the state whatever that levy generates based upon your property valuation today. That levy is 29.39%. So it is underneath the levy that in any of these 3 scenarios. The big difference is that levy stays in place for 50 years. Unless at some point there have been times where the state has allowed you to pay it off early, should you be in a position where valuations change or other things. For most of the districts that are in this program, that 29% levy just covers a portion of the interest payment, so they really never pay the state back principal. Once you get to 50 years, the state forgives the loan. You may have seen in the legislature this year, some of the districts that have this type of loan outstanding, the state has created some incentives to try to get them to pay them back. So it's an option that lowers your rate in the short term, but over the long term, if you do the math, it could provide you some benefit, but it could also really hamstring the board 25, 30 years from now as far as what they're looking at. And so it depends upon the financial calculation. You know, you could run fancy formulas about, you know, the time value of money and how you run things back to today's dollars, and that's all. It's all nice and fine, but this is another option on the table. What's important though is that in order to get a capital loan, it does have to be approved by the legislator. So you put in, it's a fairly long process that you have to go through, and it does have to be voted on and approved by the legislator. So it's not something that you automatically receive just because you hit the metrics that qualify. You do have to hit certain metrics, and you do with any of these programs. But the legislator could say, no, we don't believe in how this is being put together, and ultimately not approve it. So that's an important element to understand here. Do you have questions about the math, about what each of the scenarios look like?
Other than sticker shock? Yeah,
So all of your numbers are on the 25 or 30 year, like the first two scenarios, and then this was the 50-year supplemental is basically what we're...
Right. These other three on a 30-year, which is the
Yep.
longest you can go by statute.
Right.
You couldn't do a 50-year bond.
Right. I'm just making
Right.
sure that everybody knows that they're kind of
Yeah.
they're kind of the same, but they're separate, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, at first this looks really, really good.
until you
just
realize
compare
that
these two
you're
pages together.
right.
But you know, one of the things that I, you know, the kind of the words I think about when we're making big decisions like this is how do you provide stability and flexibility for the people that are in your chairs, you know, many years in the future, and ultimately these decisions will have ramifications there. So it is a program that can be used, and because of where these numbers align, it's something that needs to be presented to you to understand how it fits in with the broader aspect. If you were to look at you know, a program that Bill had talked about, similar to what you've been in the past with the 80-20 or some version of that, as you look at these numbers, it's pretty close to just take, say, 20% of the impact and understand what your impact would be here. It's not exactly that way because when you would go back there, you'd lose the state equalization like we talk about. So it actually would be a little more than 20% of what these numbers are shown to go there. And as we get down those avenues, we can start running more specific numbers if that's where it goes. So, anything to add, Bill?
Comments?
Yikes. It's a lot of money. I don't see how we could do that to a taxpayer with the numbers that I see in front of me.
Mona, that was really the gist of my opening comments. We've never been here before, not to these numbers at least. Unlike the rest of the state, that each time they borrow money, no matter if you're the most rural part of Minnesota, my own town down in Fairmont and Martin County, each year they add to land value simply by adding more land to the taxpayers or to the tax rolls by adding ditches and making more land farmable, by adding fertilizer to the soil, making more crops available. We don't do that here. Each time somebody takes a shovel of dirt out of the ground and takes it to the mine, we lose part of the essential value of our region. The whole idea of using taconite funds for school projects didn't happen yesterday, it didn't happen 20 years ago or 30 years ago. We can go way back into the 20s and see that it happened then. And the existing taconite sharing program created after World War II was done so that everybody could share more equally. And we've done that. We've been in that program since before combination and then every program after combination. I would expect that that's exactly what we would do. But that's what every district across the range has now been funded, except for Evelyn, Gilbert, and perhaps Virginia. And somebody may have another exception, but some very large projects have been done, and some have been done to the extent of 100%, a lot, and most at 80-20. Mountain Iron Buell is a little bit better than that, but I would expect no less than 80-20. But the capital loan program, just to hit on that, the capital loan program goes back to pre-Korea, World War II. And there was, after World War II, there was a big building program all across the state, rural part of the state. And there was a fear that some districts would have to pay an unusual burden. So they created this criteria that said, if you meet these certain criteria, then we, the state, will come in, you pay the first 25%, and then we'll pay the balance. We'll borrow that. But you have to create a program to pay a maximum taxing effort every single year. Initially, it was for 30 years. I did a lot of those, and they're all paid for, by the way. And at 30 years, any balance in those funds, they were then forgiven. They decided a few years ago to extend that to 50 years. So that's why the 50 years there. It's a statutory provision, and mostly it's rural areas, areas, quite frankly, that don't have very good soils, subject to high movements of land values, especially downward. South of Wadena, Bertha Hewitt, the farmers, as I term it, they farm mostly rocks and not very high values. That was one of my very first ones. But it's that kind of a program. It was set up mostly for those who didn't have high values. Now, just because of the large amount that we're looking at, that's why we qualify.
May I ask? When Evelyn and Gilbert were independent and they consolidated, paired and shared and whatever, do you know, to your knowledge, did we get an 80-20 funding back in those days?
Yes.
When we cooperated or consolidated, however you want to say it?
As part of the cooperation agreement, both Evelyn and Gilbert had to issue bonds to build, bring their facilities up to a level that both boards were satisfied with.
Right.
Both of those were 80-20s.
So the public could say we've been through an 80-20 funding mechanism already. As today, now it's time to go out and find a new partner.
We've been through it 1, 2, 3 times. Each time there was a special piece of legislation, and each time, in this case, Mike Lang and I sat down with the legislators, walked them through it. The board had done their share with the legislators, and then we spent our time at the Capitol.
But it was always in the name of cooperation, right? For the most part.
Well, once we were we had been combined, then we were one district.
Right, I get it. Okay.
And we were in the heart of the taconite refunding district. So that's really the key to the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're not asking it. I'm not suggesting you ask for something that other people have not received, and something that you're not entitled to, because you are. be silly for me to come up here and tell you that, but you are entitled to that. Now that changes the impact, as Michael said, but as we progress with the delegation, and that will help you with those numbers, and then we'll come back and we'll show you exactly how that folds into these numbers. Smile, Keith.
That's all you can do.
Well, Keith, you've been through it. Leon, you've been through it. Tom, you haven't. Mike, you haven't. Mr. Ford, you haven't. But, you know, I don't know, you were in one. I think you may have caught the very first one, or the last one.
Yeah.
So, you know, some of us have been through it. I just been through all of them, so.
And you remember them too.
I do. I wrote the law.
I know. Well, it's just a lot to take in at one time.
Yes, I wouldn't expect all of you to do a lot with this, except to take it home as normal, put it underneath your pillow. A lot of these won't come through, and I don't expect it to. A lot of the other stuff I would tell you to put under your pillow. Tomorrow you'd all come through, you remember every bit, but not this.
No.
This is pretty heavy stuff, and I hope perhaps only that it will give you maybe a guide into looking at the options. But most of all, the direction ought to be to get our legislators.
Yeah. We'd have to.
Yes.
But that's a must. That's not even a question. If we want to proceed with this.
Any one of these is outside the district's reach.
Mm-hmm. We're not a tax-rich base
No.
district like other ones that have a lot more tax base than we do.
Well, I think we knew this when we started this
Oh,
road,
yeah.
that it was going to be,
Oh yeah,
it was going to be a
it's gonna be a
big
stretch.
deal. That's why it's taken us so long, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But
Well,
if
Michael, it is a big deal.
it is a big
Now
deal.
you know how big the mountain is.
mm-hmm. That number 2 shovel is not going to do it.
Nope.
No.
Last summer we kind of had this preview. I mean, we
Yeah.
kind of.
Board members, rest assured that both Michael and I are available. I haven't dodged a bullet for this district, and I'm not going to dodge one now. So believe me, I'm here. We're here. So at your convenience, it's your option. Give us a call and try to give us a week if you will, please.
Yeah.
If you pick up the phone and there's whimpering, it's just one of us.
Okay, I'll remember that one.
Okay. Well, we're going to think about and have a meeting on this to see what we want to do with it. I mean,
Yeah, one last comment from our standpoint is, I think it's important as we've presented some of these cost savings options, is for you as a district to look and see what that number is. You know, we threw out this $1.3 million. You know, what does that do for you long term? Is that enough? You know, the last thing we want to do is go through any one of these projects and find out at the end of the day that you're still not saving enough money to continue your operations or, you know, get yourself back to where you need to be. So, go ahead.
There's just one comment. We have an operating levy, obviously, and that's mostly due to our aging infrastructure. That the levy but apparently we're capped out or relatively close. I mean, is the idea that if we did do some newer updates, that maybe some of that operating levy would go down to our tax base, or is that a function we won't really be able to explore until we actually get closer to a direction of what we would like to do?
Yeah, I don't know if you can answer that better than I, as far as the operating levy cost.
I mean, I know we don't need
Yep.
specifics, but just kind of general. I mean, if
The whole idea of the operating levy was more the result of the legislature pulling back from the formula, funding formula. And they kindly provided a method that we locally pay for it. So at this point, I think you need to narrow down the options. Then once we get to something, then we have to go forward with what it's going to cost for building and facilities, but the actual operating cost. And it's got to be a serious one because we're looking ahead forward to when the operating levies are going to expire. And you need to know now, as part of this whole program, whether or not what to do with that. Because we can't go ahead and
Part of the
know
conversation.
they're going to expire and we're going to be short. Then we're no better off than we are right now.
That's what I was just trying to say, that that's all part of this conversation, and it's all a big deal.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, and like Bill said, you know, from our standpoint, you know, this was our goal, is to kind of get you to this point today. You've got some options in front of you. Again, I think they're pretty conservative numbers. You know, we've got a couple bubbles of color on a floor plan and some concepts that I think are real. I think that there's something that we can start working off of. And so as we move through that next step, once we decide, you know, what that number, what that goal is that we need to save on a yearly basis, we can come back and we can start redefining and getting in a little bit more of a final number, you know, that works back to whatever plan is picked to move forward. So this was just kind of a good overall concept and basis, and, you know, things might change as we move forward a little bit, but hopefully this is enough to get the thinking cap on and give you an idea of kind of the long term where you're at. And we're not going anywhere either. So phone call, or, you know, be happy to come to a meeting a little bit more individual and discuss it, you know, on a more individual basis as well. So.
Okay, what else do we need to do, Jeff? What would you recommend?
Well, at this point, I think we need to set a study session to give you a week or whatever you need to digest what you've taken in here. And I think we need to sit down and start looking at some of this. I mean, just because, and I just, as a side note, just because this is what the options that they presented, I mean, they can be tweaked from here too. I mean, they're calling for a $50-some million renovation of this campus. That doesn't necessarily, I mean, we can cut corners there and it can get cheaper if that's the way to go. So I mean, there are options within these options that we can study. I think in the end it's just a matter of we need to come up with a number that we're all comfortable with as far as a target goal. I mean, what do we need to save to survive 10 years down the road? And how are we going to get there? So this is your opening salvo on how that's could be achievable, and we need to tweak it from there and make a decision and move on. I would think, talking with ARI and Northland Securities, that this is not something that you're going to want to sit on for too long. Reason being, we're on about a 3-year life support right now, and just heading into that year number 3. And if we made a decision tonight, I'm just giving you an example of a timeline. You're still looking at, and decided ultimately that we were going to go with one of these options in some way or form, and decided that we're going to put that on a ballot. You're probably looking at April as soon as that's going to get on the ballot. Then there's a process that has to happen after that, where you sell the bonds, acquire land, whatever it have to be. But the reality is we're 3 years away from actually saving anything from right now today. So that clock is ticking.
Would this be a time to reach out to the legislature? We already know there's one 80/20 at the IRRB. You know, I mean, is this a time to where we should ask them? I mean, what are the chances of us working on something? Because if they can't give us anything, I mean, what going forward? Obviously, we know we can't do this alone, right? I mean,
No.
we're talking in circles if there's no hope at the other side. You know what I'm trying to get at? I mean, is it prudent to maybe informally say, what kind of hoops do we have to do to qualify for some kind of
Find out if we're
funding?
wasting our time.
Absolutely. I mean, the public ain't gonna accept this, and
they
as
shouldn't.
sort it, right, we can't. We either need to figure out what hoops we need to jump through, and to your point, we got 3 years to start jumping through hoops if this is the direction we think we're gonna go. Or what direction, and then we'll know what other options maybe there are. But if there's no funding at the end of the road, that's a different conversation. I mean, we can dream, and that's what we've been doing for 2 years, but we still, we still ain't any closer to actually doing it. I mean, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there that, I mean, and maybe, yeah, you can bring it to a work session, but I mean, maybe there's some things we need to have a conversation with some other outside people before we get to that point, because let's have the reality.
I guess I'd like to, the first step would be I'd like to have a study session to find some parameters of where we're gonna go. I mean, what's the end result of how much do we need to save to continue? And from there, you can kind of narrow down some of your options, and then I think at that time it'd be prudent to start talking about financial options. So I guess I'd like to have one session beforehand, and then we can start working on that angle.
I think we gotta go back to our budget conversations then too. I mean, that's, what our real,
Yeah, it's all together. It all fits
It's all
together.
tied together.
I mean,
Well, given the timeline that you mentioned and how many years we have, I would suggest that we start meeting weekly, whether it's study sessions, special meetings, in between our regular meetings, and come up with something to bring to the range delegation. That's because I would think their first reaction is going to be, well, what do you want to do?
That's gonna be the first reaction.
So
I
we
mean,
have to have
kind of need to
something.
have something.
We have to have something together. Well, we want to do this. Can you help us? No? Well, then we want to do that. Come back later with a change. But I would be in favor of weekly meetings to move this along.
I think we should too. We don't have that much. 3 years may seem like a long time, but now when you start looking at all
how long did it
this,
take Mountain Iron and Buell to get theirs?
9.
9 years.
So we might be too late.
Yeah,
Took them 9 what?
9 years.
9 years they tried to get a new building. They
But
went
the
up-
final,
they went
the
about
final,
it.
how long did the final push take?
4 or 5.
No, the final push was
Only 2 years.
about 2 years. But they went about it a lot of different ways.
But to your point is maybe
Mhm.
the delegation will kick back, and it might get
We gotta-
kicked back 9 years
have to
worth
try.
of times. I mean,
Yeah, I think we need to. I agree with that.
I think we have to, repeating myself, we have to be on this weekly. If we really want to do anything, or if we're going to kick the can again.
Then let's just agree that Monday nights
every Monday.
are tied up with this for the
Committee, or very
duration.
board meeting, or special board meeting, or committee meeting, something.
That's the only night
Every
I
Monday.
can commit to.
That's
So-
fine with me.
Yeah. Study
That
meetings
work for you?
every Monday.
Other than Labor Day, we might have to skip that
Oh,
one.
thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Or maybe move to a Tuesday if we don't have a
Well,
board
next
meeting.
next Monday I won't be here, but every Monday after that, darn it.
Okay.
And maybe yeah.
Right.
Well, I think before we get too much deeper into this, I would like, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
to thank ARI and Northland Securities for making this understandable and clear enough that we have something that we can even look at. Prior to tonight, we really were in the dark. And at least now we have something we can look at that makes sense. And you guys from Northland Securities haven't let us down yet. You come in and you make the most obnoxious bit of information at least understandable, if not palatable. And I'm very pleased with what ARI has done for us in terms of working with us to give us a plan that we can work with. And I know you understand that it may still get fine-tuned, but you knew from the beginning we needed something a base to start with, and now we have that. So I'm very pleased. Thank
Especially
you.
coming in on such short notice.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think it's a great start. I think it's good information, and I think we've got a lot of good decisions in front of you, so.
Now start buying lottery tickets.
Lottery tickets aren't enough either.
That's a
We all
start.
have to win.
Right?
Yes.
Different lotteries.
Yeah.
If the pot gets big enough, it would be a good,
Well, thank you all. Appreciate it very much. Okay, moving on.
Oh yeah, we got more to go yet.
So we have, we're setting Mondays aside from now until
Forever.
ever. Okay, 10.3, approve the amended joint powers agreement with Northland Learning Center.
Formerly known as the Northland Special Ed Co-op, changed the name a little bit. Anyway, this just adds International Falls to the list of entities that are involved with it.
So
No other
there's,
changes.
there's actually no wording changes, just the addition of International
Additional
Falls.
International Falls.
Okay, we need a
Who
motion.
incidentally has been part of this for the last 8 years. They just got around to changing it now.
Didn't want to rush into it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, we need a motion and a second to that effect.
I'll move.
Motion by
I'll second.
Futzel, second by Mr. Forty. Any other any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8.4, Network Administrators Contract.
This is as the board last saw and informally approved. There were no changes made to it after it, and it was accepted as presented.
I'll move that we accept the contract.
Motion by Peterson,
Support.
supported by Sean Lobb. Any questions or? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 10.5, resolution number 625, relating to the election of school board members and calling the school district general election. This is a roll call. We still need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Motion by Sean Lobb,
I'll second.
support by 40. Whenever you're ready, Mona.
All right.
See, I didn't ask who's going to vote yes or no. So
No, that's, you're improving.
getting better.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll start by noting that Director Chad is not here this evening. That's an absent. Director Shanlop,
Yes.
Director Forty,
Yes.
Director Young,
Yes.
Director Peterson,
Yes.
Director Gentilini,
Yes.
and for myself, yes.
So motion passes.
Can I add that it's nice to see there's so much excitement this year? I just thought it was neat that there's so many people interested.
I am
to
very
serve.
impressed with having 8 people sign up for the school board elections.
Yes.
It's been a long time.
Very excited about that.
Good luck to everyone. Okay, moving on. 11.0, superintendent's report. Jeff?
I have a few things. First one, enrollment. As of today, we have 25 new students and 19 have left. Of those 19, most of them have actually physically moved away. It's under 5 as far as open enrollments go. Food service change. I talked about this earlier, but INAC had previously been hiring our lunchroom playground aides at the Gilbert campus. Not real sure why that was going on, but anyway, I was given notice late last week, maybe early this week, that they were not going to continue doing that. It doesn't affect us financially. They will be making the same rate of pay. But I just wanted to make you aware of this because probably at the next meeting we'll have to actually approve some hiring of those
Jeff,
folks.
just some background. At that time when they did this many years ago, it was a cost savings. Somewhere in the Franklin was always paid through the school district, and the Nell Sheen over there was always paid through INAC. And it was just a cost savings at that time. But since then, the amount of pay that they get per hour is equalized out over the years. But it was a cost savings at that time.
Okay. No, I'm just a little FYI that's coming down the pike real soon here. We have that advertised right now. So.
Okay.
Staffing, we currently have 90 students in the 5th grade. We're trying to find a 4th teacher. I did mention it last time. Other than that, all the teaching positions have been filled. We have advertising out for early childhood and Title I, and we'll be making those hires real soon. Early childhood those classes will start up, I believe it's the 3rd week of September. Title I starts about the 2nd week of September. Minnesota Service Co-op online, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. We currently don't have a policy for students who just wish to take a class or two from us and take classes otherwise. We have had a few of those students in the past. Band is usually one of those options. We'll have homeschool students or even online academy students that ask if they can come for band. And when we have allowed that in the past, one of the things that Angie asked, Ms. Williams asked me earlier, is why we don't participate in the MSC online. What that is, real briefly, is, I don't know, it must have been about a dozen years ago or so, the Minnesota Service Co-op, actually our co-op here in the Northeast Service Co-op, started an online school of their own. Basically, they charge school districts a per class rate. In this case, it's $450 a semester. But we retain those students as our students. So say we had a student that was taking online classes and wanted to come here for band. If we had that option available to us where we could say, hey, we could put you on MSC online courses, we would actually retain them as a student, where right now we can only, according to Mars, we can only charge like if they were only in band, there's a percentage of that we're going. So that's something that we're looking into right now and might come your way real soon.
Okay.
Facilities update, the floor in the commons area down in the high school is now complete. Excuse me. So that completes all of our summer projects. I do want to send a thank you to our custodial staff for all the work they did this summer. Our buildings are looking great again. Halls are shiny, or they're getting that way. We have a couple weeks to go yet. Early childhood, and again, I didn't change the numbers on here, and I'm not sure why, but I misspoke last week. I said that there was 42 kids enrolled in SR4s. That number was actually 32 at that time. I believe it's 35 as of today. We still have the 21 kids enrolled in SR3s. A few announcements. Again, follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We have updates going on there regularly. I want to remind people that we are accepting payments for lunch and athletic fees online now. We have a number of people that have been taking advantage of the lunch in the last couple months of last year and even now this summer. But we've also added athletic fees, and we've had a couple people take advantage of that. But trying to get that word out. It's kind of a convenient thing for folks. Season tickets went on sale today in the high school office for all athletic events. And just a reminder that open house is set for September 1st. And my seat is going down again. Look at that.
Took it down a notch.
It just took me down a notch right there.
Or two. Right?
Hey, Randy, good timing.
Someone set that up.
That's awesome.
All right. So these folks over here have student handbooks pass out to you. I also do too for the Franklin. Unfortunately, they're in my office, but I'll get those to you. There are no significant changes this year to any of the policies or anything in them. They're basically name changes, but as per usual, we do give you them. And that is all I have for today.
Okay, thank you. 12.0, board member topics. Tom?
I just have one, I don't want to interrupt when you're going through all this other with ARI, but when I looked in the facility report that you presented us, and in there, they had the drains are plugged due to baseballs in the drains, and that was causing water backup on the roof.
For which building? For the
This is junior high
the
now.
junior high
Yeah,
building?
I was just wondering, when you were up there, did you remove those balls so that the drains would drain?
We did not.
You did not?
We did not.
Okay.
They're still there.
Okay, that's all I
But
have.
there is a rickety old ladder if you'd like to try to get up there. And, yeah. They're still there.
That's all I have. Keith.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
I just wanted, I didn't know if it was appropriate or not, but I forgot to mention it last time that we have an old teacher on Facebook that has been handing out old autobiographies and some kind of history assignments, and his name was Richard Roach. And some of us that had him call him Papa Roach. I don't know, what, 93 he retired, I think it said?
Yes.
I had him as an American history teacher, and I think half of the Iron Range had him as an English teacher or whatever, and he's been lugging around old assignments for the past 30, 40, 50 years in some cases, trying to return these old autobiographies to ex-students. And now through Facebook and now the media has taken and told the story, that he's been sending them out, you know, making little lists and stuff, and it's a neat thing. And I just wanted to give him props for going up and beyond. I mean, he was a great teacher when I had him, and I'm sure everybody that had him can attest to that. And he's just an outstanding human being, and I'm just wanted to just note it publicly for it.
If I could add to that topic, I was going to mention that myself. I think it'd be appropriate if our superintendent would send a letter to Mr. Roach commending him on what he's done.
Absolutely.
For his students. And Mike, you said you were a student of his?
Yep.
Do you have your autobiography?
I
you could
have
share
not
with
made a
us?
list yet.
Okay.
We're all watching diligently. I think I have most of my family covered, but there's a couple of my grade have hit there. But I think at one point he made comment that he's moved so many times over the years that the papers have gotten disheveled, and he's just throwing them back in. So there's literally lists from people that are elderly to, you know.
Where are these lists? Online?
No, yes, on his personal Facebook page. He just makes a list, and his name is Richard Roach. Apparently he's been friending everybody because he has well over 600-700 friends right now. And I just, to Mark's point, I think it would be a great thing if we sent some kind of letter thanking him for his past and current services.
He influenced a lot of students to become teachers. Anything else?
No, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Well,
I just have a question. There was an article in the Mesaba Daily about kids getting ready for football, and there were pictures of our team. You couldn't even tell they were from Edwith Gilbert. They were advertising some sports company, and I just think it would have been nicer if they were wearing something that looked like it would belong to us. Don't know where they came from.
okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Nope. Mark?
The other thing I had, besides Mr. Roach, is I want to recognize one of our student athletes. Kyle Kwiatek participated on the VFW baseball team this summer. It's a team sponsored by the local VFW Post and the rec department. He was selected to play in the All-Star game that they had at the end of the season. And beyond that, he was picked as the MVP of the game. And I just wanted to recognize his efforts. He's a fine student athlete.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Okay. Leon?
Nothing at this time.
And I don't have anything either, so motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Been a
Thank you.
long
Thank you all.